All right, this is the first video for the series on the Great War, reading the unit on the Great War, and this will cover the first section of the notes entitled Marching Toward War. So we looked at several periods in history. We've looked at industrialization and new places using nationalism as a way to unite them and throw off their colonial rulers, like in Latin America. We've looked at imperialism, and now we're moving on to World War I. All right. So there is a clever little acronym and to help remember what caused World War I. And it looks like I've only given you 3 spaces, but there should be 4. So add in the letter D there. And these are the 4 reasons. Individually, they are militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism. But they also create a neat acronym with the first letter of each of those causes and spell out main. So they're the main causes of World War I. And it's built like that on purpose to make it easier to remember. Militarism, alliances, imperialism, nationalism are the factors that propelled the continent into war. And the sources of rivalries among Europeans: competition for materials, competition for markets, 2 separate ones there, and disputes over territories are what cause European nations to be pitted against one another. All right, this idea of militarism, I'm going to kind of leave it up to you to define because I think the name kind of implies what it is, but it's just an intensified focus on developing the military and that being the main component of a nation's image. So it's just to build up one's military and also to have that as the focal point of the image of the nation is militarism. All right, if we look at this map here, so there's our alliances. All right, if we go back to the map here, we see that there is Germany, located right here. As they were building up their artillery and their military, they felt the greatest threat by their neighbor France. So there's a French-German rivalry that has been existing for a while. They're neighbors, they're competing for resources in the world, and that was causing problems. So to alleviate the concern Germany had over their neighbor France, Germany formed an alliance with a nearby nation, their neighbor. They have similar culture, similar language, and it made sense for them to be on the same side. And this is Austria. And this was called, if you see it in the bottom right-hand corner here, it was called the Dual Alliance between Austria and Germany to help offset any concerns the Germans had about a French threat. All right, Germany also started to build up their military. In particular, they built up their navy. And there was a country in Europe that had had the leading navy in the world for quite some time and felt particularly threatened by that action. And that was Great Britain. So Great Britain had this amazing navy, and that the Germans are building up their navy felt like a direct threat to their superiority as a navy. All right, if we can look at this map again real quick, let's define a couple more terms that aren't specifically outlined here. You had the 2 main alliances going into World War I, and this map is color-coded accordingly. So you got 2 definitions there, the Triple Alliance and the Triple Entente. Eventually, Germany and Austria added to their union Italy. Italy is going to change sides once the war begins. That's why they're colored differently than Germany and Austria. So Germany, Austria, Italy became known as the Triple Alliance. So that was the alliance between Germany, Austria, Hungary, and Italy. So you can write that in for the definition. The Triple Entente, composed of a union of Russia, right here you can't see it labeled, but this is Russia, France, and Great Britain. So for the definition Triple Entente, it was the union between Britain, France, and Russia. All right, so other things that were going on, you see where this is located here, in Southeast Europe, there was a lot of cultural conflict going on. a lot of ethnic groups trying to get representation in the nations that they were living in. And so as a result of that, this part of the world is referred to as the powder keg of Europe because of the boiling frustration that was going on in this area. Was like the fuse was lit and it was getting closer and closer to, the explosion. So that contributed to World War I starting as well. All right, you see the breakup of Southeast Europe at this time. All these territories collectively used to be part of the Ottoman Empire, but as the Ottoman Empire got weaker, different portions of their empire started to break away and become independent and not be part of the Ottoman Empire anymore. All right, and one nation in particular is this one in the middle here. This is Serbia. Serbia broke away. This is an ethnic group of people known as Slavic people. They didn't have a lot in common with the Ottoman Muslims, so they wanted to be independent. They broke away, and this country of Serbia became one of the countries that broke away and became an independent nation from the Ottomans. All right, as I had mentioned, Serbian people are known as Slavic people, or people from this region known as Slavic. Not everybody from this region is Slavic, but the majority are. And now, as this country was becoming independent, different other nations in Europe had an opinion on the independence that Serbia gained from the Ottoman Empire. All right, the Russians were in support of that decision. Russian people have some Russians have a Slavic heritage as well, and therefore were in support of Serbian independence from the Ottoman Empire. Plus, the Russians had had a war, the Crimean War with the Ottoman Empire, so they wanted to see Ottomans fall apart. But on the other side, Austria didn't approve of Serbia becoming independent because that was another nation independent right on the border of Austria. Plus, they were kind of freaking out that the Slavic people who were living in Austria would all of a sudden want to have an independent country too, or want to break off and join Serbia. So this was a problem for Austria. In order to make this not an issue for Austria, they sent their troops into this region right here called Bosnia-Herzegovina. You see it's pink, just like the rest of Austria, because they wanted to make sure that they controlled what was going on here and that these people didn't break away and become their own nation as well. While they had done that, after they controlled this region, one of their leaders was sent in to sort of monitor what was going on there. And while he was visiting and overseeing the military occupation of that area, there it is, Bosnia-Herzegovina, a guy jumped out of the crowd. This radical Serbian nationalist jumped out of the crowd and shot him right in front of his wife and his driver. Right, this guy right here is trying to catch the bullet, I guess. So that's a problem, as it would be in any country. If a leader of a country went to another country and while they were there, they were killed or even attempted to be killed, that would cause an international situation, as it did here. And the guy who planned this attack and executed the Archduke Ferdinand. I should mention that there. So there he is now. Franz Ferdinand is this guy. He's the Archduke of Austria, future leader of Austria, assassinated while touring in Bosnia-Herzegovina. And this guy, he is a Serbian. He's from Serbia. He crossed over the border and killed this leader. His name was Gavrilo Princip. He was a member of a radical group that wanted Serbian nationalism for everyone. It was called the Black Hand. And he was hoping that all Serbians would rise up in Austria and create their own nation. And he thought by doing that, or by murdering Archduke Ferdinand, that would inspire them, to rise up against the Austrian government. In reality, what happened is that the Austrian government came down to Serbia and demanded that they hunt down everybody who was responsible for this assassination. Everybody who was a member of the Black Hand, they wanted arrested and tried and executed, for this crime. And Austria refused, and that was the first domino that eventually became the beginning of World War I. So if we go back here for a second, the sort of convoluted way that the world got into war is a bit disappointing, but it is important to understand. So here's Serbia. The guy crossed the border to Bosnia, assassinated the leader from Austria-Hungary, and Austria-Hungary responded by demanding justice from Serbia, because this guy was Serbian. Serbia refused, so Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia, and this is how it started, so you can follow along. Russia, who had an alliance with Serbia, once Austria-Hungary invaded Serbia, declared war on Austria because they declared war on Serbia. And then once Russia declared war on Austria, Germany, who was an ally of Austria-Hungary, declared war on Russia because Russia had declared war on Austria, who had declared war on Serbia because the guy from Serbia assassinated the leader from Austria. Once the Germans declared war on Russia, they also declared war on Russia's ally, France, and France declared war on them because Germany had declared war on Russia, who had declared war on Austria, who had attacked Serbia because a Serbian assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand. And then eventually, as Germany was prepping for war, they actually tried to attack France through Belgium, and that's what drew Britain in because they had an alliance with Belgium. So when Germany attacked Belgium, France declared war on Germany because Germany had declared war on France and tried to go through Belgium, and also declared war on Russia, who had declared war on Austria, who had declared war on Serbia because Serbia assassinated Archduke Franz Ferdinand. And of course, I'm sure that's perfectly clear and you don't understand exactly what's going on, but that is how Europe got sucked into World War I.